Hello, fellow gardeners. It's Amaryllis time again. Well, not quite. We are in the middle of October, and all you Amaryllis lovers know that by now you would have had to put your bulbs into induced dormancy if you wish them to bloom in time for Christmas. But it's not too late. We have one more week left, and that is why we decided to do this video, so that those of you who may not remember how to put your bulbs in induced dormancy, you can follow along with our demonstration today. So please keep watching. Welcome back to the Calyx Services channel. I am Thelma. And by now, regular viewers know that I have developed a special interest in Amaryllis, in that we've already done 2 videos on it. And if you haven't seen those videos, I will encourage you to go back and look at them. But before I go any further, let me just remind you that the correct botanical name for Amaryllis, as we call it, is Hippeastrum. But since most of us know this lovely plant by its common name, Amaryllis, I'll continue to use that name. And what makes Amaryllis so special? Well, it's an easy to care for plant that produces these wonderful blooms you're looking at here. But because Amaryllis is not readily available as a gift plant in the Caribbean, and I think it's so spectacular and can rival the other gift plants, I've decided to devote a fair bit of attention to developing the growing systems as well as the post-growing systems that will allow you to be able to bring them into blooming in time for the 2 main gift-giving seasons of the year, and that's Christmas and Easter or Mother's Day. In this video, I'll show you the steps involved in forcing Amaryllis into a 6-week dormancy period so that they will bloom within 6 weeks or so after they've been taken out of dormancy. Before I get started, let me just remind you that the entire process of inducing Amaryllis to bloom takes about 12 weeks. 6 weeks in a cool, reduced light, so that the bulbs really do go into dormancy. Then you take the bulbs out of dormancy and put them into conditions that encourage them to grow. And within 6 weeks of that, the Amaryllis will bloom. Now, our demonstration last year, we had about 75% success rate for that induced dormancy, and we expect to get at least that again this year. So let's get started with the demonstration. And I have 5 pots. I'm assuming you too have 5 Amaryllis growing in pots. And we're going to look at each to determine which ones we're going to take out of the pot and which ones can remain in the pot while the plant is being placed into dormancy. The main criteria I'm going to use to determine whether or not the plant should be repotted is whether or not there's obvious signs of root bound. And how can I tell that without upturning the pot? You can see, for example, in this one, this pot is already out of shape. You see it's being pushed to that direction, and you could actually see signs of the roots. You can see indentations here. So, plus we have some offsets coming up, and if you're interested in getting more plants, then now is the time to take the offsets. And likewise, this pot is not as out of shape, so it's not really as root bound, but this is a fairly large offset, and if we were to just cut the mother bulb and put that into dormancy, then you're going to kill this one. So if you're interested in getting more offsets, and I'm recommending that we all do, then this is a pot. This is a candidate for repotting at this time, or for taking out of the pot. And certainly this pot is too small now for the size of this bulb, and they're 2 healthy, large offsets. So I would say I'm going to take these 3 out of the pot and prepare them for the dormancy. These 2 now, to my right, I see no offsets coming out of this. There's still a fair bit of room left for this bulb to expand in the pot, so I think it's comfortable to it will be comfortable leaving it in this pot. And likewise, this bulb also has a fair bit of space. This tiny offset, I guess we're going to sacrifice it. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to take these 3 to my left out of the pot and treat them as I say, naked bulbs. And these 2, I'm going to leave them in the pot and apply the dormancy treatment to them in the pot. So, step 1, remove the leaves. And I'll be using this sharp knife to cut all the leaves at the neck of the bulb. And as usual, to minimize contamination, I'll sanitize the knife by wiping the blade with a tissue soaked in rubbing alcohol. And we're cutting it at the narrowest point of the neck. See? Simple as that. I'll do the 3rd plant and proceed to step 2, which is to take all 3 plants out of their pots and to place the root ball into a bucket of water to remove the soil. Removing the soil makes it much easier to dislodge the 3 offsets from this mother bulb. And it's time to move on to step 3, which is to sanitize the cutting tools and trim away the roots, leaving about a 2 to 3 inch stubble at the base of the bulb. And do a final wash in clean water. Step 4, sanitize the bulbs by soaking the bulbs in a mixture of equal parts of 3% hydrogen peroxide and water for about 30 minutes. Now that that's done, I'll move on to prepare those plants that do not need repotting. So this does not need repotting. We can feel that it has a lot of space and I don't see any roots. So what we're going to do is carefully cut it. Remove any trash or old scale leaves from the top of the bulb. And make sure that it is dry before you put it in the cool room. These are wet because we've been having rains, but I would recommend about a week or so before you do this routine that you make sure that the pots are dry. In the interest of time, I've done 1 of each, 1 plant in situ as it were, preparing this bulb for dormancy without repotting it at this time because it had enough space in the pot. And this is the bulb that has been sitting in the hydrogen peroxide. Because this container is small, I kept turning it, but it has to be soaking in the hydrogen peroxide for about 30 minutes. That way we are aiming to kill any pathogens that may be on the surface as well as in between these crevices here. And because this one wasn't soaked, it is recommended that we spray the tops and the side with equal parts of hydrogen peroxide and water and surface treat this bulb that was not repotted. Now, this is a very important step. They're all damp, they're full of moisture. If you were to immediately put it into an area where the ventilation may be limited, you are more likely to have problems with fungus and bacteria. So what we do is we let it air dry for a period of about 4 days, that the surface of the bulbs would be dehydrated by the time you put it into dormancy. And that's what I'm going to show you next, exactly where we keep our bulbs for the 6-week dormant period. This year, we decided to dig a number of our amaryllis plants growing in beds. We dug the first set in early September, and these are almost ready to be removed from the dark room. This is the second batch of the bulbs that we dug, and they were dug about less than a week ago. And this batch really was done so that they hopefully will come into blooming about 3 weeks after the first set. So these are now ready to go into the reduced, to the dark room, which John has very cleverly constructed. And this is what he's done, just made a flap excluding all light. The temperatures are rather cool at this time of the year, with nighttime temperatures of around 20 to 21 degrees centigrade, and the daytime goes up to about 24 degrees centigrade in this chamber. These are the first set of bulbs that were placed here September 2nd. I'll place this new batch in the dark room where they will remain for 6 weeks, and I'm closing the flap to exclude most of the light. There are gaps at the top to ensure sufficient ventilation so the bulbs will be able to breathe. And there's even another source of airflow through this large vent which is covered in shade cloth. So you can tell that I've continued to have fun with the amaryllis, and I hope you are too. Now, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed already, we'll encourage you to do so that you will not miss our videos that we upload every week. So until the next video, I am Thelma, standing here in the courtyard garden, saying thanks for watching, and until the next time, take care and bye-bye.